Well, hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Peter Walsh Show podcast. And today, guys, I'm so excited for this one. Today, we've got Tommy Gill, who is the CEO. And guys, normally you know that I try and help out as much as I can when we talk about adoption, dating. We talk about Formula One as well. But today, we're going to just mix it up a little bit, right? As many of you know as well, I have my own business. Obviously with the booking system, but today we've got a pro, and it's Tommy Gill. And basically, I'm actually just going to read out Tommy's bio here before we bring him in. Tommy's got a background in science. He's had most roles business from sweeping the yard to running a company. Many years in a corporate environment with Bayer Chemicals, I hope I'm pronouncing that correct, Tommy, in Ireland, before moving to the UK, and he headed up BPI Home and Garden, a consumer company. Now, in 2009, Tommy set up a business consultancy to help SMEs, small and medium enterprises, with business strategy, and has worked across many industries in the UK and Ireland. Now, get this, guys. Tommy spent 5 years up to recently working in 50 third world countries. I can't even get my head around that, on mosquito and pest control. 50, it's unbelievable. And Tommy's recently moved back to Ireland, taken over the Wild West Centre in Westport in County Mayo, guys, with his wife, Tish. So we're going to talk about the different sections here now as we go. But Tommy, first of all, welcome.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you.
And thanks for coming on. It's great to have you on board now. And so, guys, we're just going to go straight into it, right? If you are starting up your own business, because I've actually had quite a few people talk about this, about, you know, Peter, you're helping with the dating stuff, and you've got your own business. And I mean, I never try and come across as some expert, you know, when it comes to business. I think the human side, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody learns from their mistakes, hopefully. And guys, today, hopefully we can go through some pointers for you with Tommy's expert opinion, that how to start a business, how to run the business. He's also the president of the PALI organization, which is, I think, Tommy, do you have over 100 members now? Is it?
Yeah, we've got about 130 members nationwide, all involved. Wow. Family recreation centres, everything from pet farms through to go-kart tracks to indoor soft play, bowling alleys, etc. So yeah, about 130 nationwide.
Wow. Okay. So yeah, guys, let's get straight into it. So Tommy, can I just start off with, it says now, because I'm reading your bio here now from the PALI About Us section. I mean, it's a perfect way to get an idea. You were saying from roles from sweeping the yard to running a company. You were sweeping the yard somewhere?
Yeah, and I'd probably just take you up on one point, Peter, and that's about making mistakes. I think I have probably made more mistakes than anybody else ever. but the good thing about making mistakes is when you do realize it, is you have the opportunity not to make the same mistake the following day. Yeah, you'll make another mistake the following day, but if you keep correcting the mistakes that you've made, you just get a little bit better and better at what you do. Yeah. Nothing wrong with making mistakes. Mistakes are there for us all to learn, and there is no golden rules that you must abide by. There's no fantastic silver bullet that gives you everything. So coming back to business and why start a business, I think there's a few elements to go through my mind. The first is really understanding your customer. If you don't know what your customer wants, it doesn't really matter what product or service you have to offer. And by the way, product and service are both the same thing. Service is a product, product is a service. So if the customer doesn't want what you're producing, it doesn't really matter. You don't have a business. So many people think that they can produce something, and it happens sometimes, you know, if you build it, they will come. But in a lot of cases, you have a lot of money spent on building a product and then find out, well, the customer doesn't really need that. I mean, a typical example would be, I'd love to have a top of the range Merc to go from here to Cork, for example, when in actual fact, I can go on the train. So what I want and what I need are certainly two different things. If you're offering me on the value basis, a train ticket versus the cost of a Merc, you know what I'll spend the money on. So I think that's probably one of the biggest issues before you even consider a business. What does that customer need? The second probably thing from my point of view, and different people have different kind of connotations of what success is. But I think the best thing you can have is passion for what you're doing. If you're passionate about it, if you love doing it, if you like doing it even, you have more chance of making it successful than if you approach it with a dreary, oh God, I hate going to work on a Monday morning attitude. That's probably the second biggest element, I think. Outside of that, it's everything else, a million other things. And at the moment, the biggest issue that I see in Ireland in every single business is insurance. What business or product or service can I offer? And by the way, can I get insurance? Whether that's professional indemnity or product manufacturing or public liability or employee liability. And if you cannot get insurance, especially in the family recreation centre business, you don't have a business or there's no point in starting up a business. And that's the biggest sea change in the last, probably 10 years. So whereas, all those gurus were guruing around the place, writing up business plans 10, 20 years ago, it was great fun because you had a format, etc. Now, the first question is, can we get insurance for this business? If you cannot get insurance, forget about spending money on a business plan. So those are kind of the three key areas, I think, Peter, and each one of them, you could spend the day talking about them.
Yeah, I'm delighted that you actually brought that one up. First of all, I love your comparison between having your car going to court, but yet you can just take the train. I love that. That's really good. It's so simple. It's obvious. I love that. And the second, like even the insurance, I mean, like I can relate to you that one there. I see my dad with the karting track and I mean, the rates have gone up. They've doubled in the last 3 to 4 years. Unbelievable. I mean, as you know as well, some of my clients that are in your PALI organization, some of them have said in the past that the insurance is unbelievable. I've even spoken to people about taking a booking system, but they're like, well, actually, do you know what, Peter? I don't even know if I'm going to get insured this year.
Yeah. I mean, and yeah, then that's one of the reasons that I was invited to join the committee of PALI in the first place. And one of the reasons that, I took over the position of CEO, because I've been dealing with insurance companies globally, especially in the chemical business, which was, on the high risk end, human health or even animal health or even crop health. So I was used to dealing with the insurance business. And yes, it's Ireland is and has been a very litigious, conscious area in all the businesses I was involved in. In other countries, not so much. And that has all fed into, higher premiums. Now, all companies, including the insurance companies, are there to return money, to make profits. To make profits, they need to cut costs or to bring in more money. And you cannot blame them for doing their job to the best of their ability. But it has, in fact, closed some businesses in Ireland and will close more. And it will stop a lot of startups because of the fact of not being able to get insurance.
Yeah. And like, where do you think the root of this problem has been? I mean, obviously, I agree. They're a business. They have to make some money as well. Of course they do. They can't just run on fresh air. Yeah. But like, how have we got to a scenario where it's got so expensive?
If you look at the history of insurance claims right across industry in Ireland for the last 10 to 20 years, you can see where the payouts have been a lot on the high side as compared to our UK or European colleagues. The amount of claims gone through seem to be high, and the settlement figures seem to be high. Now, you can see it's not any one person or one piece of the jigsaw that causes the problem. It's the whole culture of the business together. So some fictitious claims were put through. It's much probably cheaper to settle those than bring them through the court with the cost of legal in this country. And the companies are saying, why don't we settle? Once that's known, you have a number of people who will bring claims because they know they're going to be settled. And it's just a kind of a spiral. And it's come to a head in the last 2 or 3 years. And especially with the industries like ours that are perceived as being higher risk. Like your high risk would be anything to do with risk or safety to humans, so to children, to cars, industry, etc. So yeah, it's I suppose the other big influence has been that most of the underwriters are now global and they're looking at global markets, and Ireland tends to be a very small market for a global player. So we don't have as many underwriters coming into Ireland for competitive reasons as we probably should have. Now, there's a lot of work going on in the government to bring in more underwriters. There's a great Alliance for Insurance Reform, which is headed up by Peter Boland. He's done fantastic work with the committee, and we're all working on it. But it's a long process.
Yeah, and just you were saying that the insurance companies, they're more of a global company and they're coming in. At the same time, on the other hand, wouldn't you think that would help the fact that they are a global company? They've got a bigger share in the market in different countries, so therefore they'd be able to afford to give a cheaper insurance. No? Yeah? Or
I don't think it works that way, Peter. I think that they look at the market and say, what's our return on this market, this specific market?
Okay.
In a global corporate company, and whether they can make more margins with their resources, more efficient use of resources in the bigger markets. I think that's what probably drives them, Now, we do have underwriters in Ireland, and we do have good brokers in Ireland, and we have providers in most cases, but they're few and far between.
Right.
It is risky from an insurance point of view. We've still a lot of work to do, both in the Alliance for Insurance Reform as businesses and certainly at government level.
Yeah. So there you go, guys. I mean, anybody that's listening, if you are setting up a company and you need insurance, Tommy, you would say insurance is number one on your list. Can I get insurance for this idea I have?
Absolutely. And if you cannot get insurance, don't even write the business plan.
Easy.
Yeah, that's my advice to anybody. I deal with queries that come to me every day of the week from guys that want to set up everything from go-karting tracks to bouncing castle adventures, adventure parks, etc. And my advice to every one of them is, before you spend any money on your market analysis, before you do any of that, just find out, is your business insurable? Will somebody insure it? And if not, as I said, zip it.
And is there any solution in the long term with this for insurance? I mean, surely it can't go on where this is just shutting businesses down that have been open for 20 years or longer. I mean, is there a solution?
There is a solution, yeah. The solution, and it's to do with the whole process of moving from high claims to realistic priced claims where there are claims, less fraudulent claims, less people, like they refer to as ambulance chasers, less ambulance chasers. And once the market looks a good market to get into, you will have more global underwriters saying, yeah, why don't we have a look at that market? You'll have more brokers in Ireland saying, please, welcome in 2 or 3 more of the bigger global players, because this is a market worth looking at. Claims are now reduced, payouts are reduced, there's a good legal process in place, it's a profitable market to go for, and it offers a lot more than it does today. Right. It needs to be a competitive environment. And at the moment, we're struggling, Peter.
Yeah. And obviously, I don't want to be going about insurance too much now in the podcast, but when it comes to like before coronavirus, like is the insurance problem now, is it worse before coronavirus? Is it worse now after, or is it the same, or what?
I don't think that that coronavirus had any effect at all.
Really? Right.
What I can tell you is that we, as an association of 130 family recreation centres, we have probably 100 of our members in a group scheme, pretty innovative group scheme, where it's through a national broker in Ireland with a global underwriter. And I think that our model is built on relationships between us, our members, the broker, and the underwriter, where we sit down and discuss and implement numerous ways of risk mitigation or reduction of risk. And that is, in our case, we've put together best practice for our industry on all the different parts of our industry. And as members, we have, kind of a voluntary initiative where we've all signed up to put our best practice in place. Whether that is from staff training, inspection of your equipment, the up-to-date safety precautions, or waivers, etc. So when we put all of those in place, it gives comfort to an underwriter that you're doing your best to mitigate against risk, which means, I think you'll find in most cases slips, trips, and falls seem to be in industry the biggest areas where injuries occur, bodily injuries occur. Mm. If we can mitigate those with our little processes from cleaning, etc., right through, then I think that's a blueprint certainly for our industry going forward. Yeah. So we're in a good place at the moment. A lot of work to be done, and we have a lot of initiatives being rolled out even over the next month or two. But that's certainly helped us with our insurance broker and underwriter.
Yeah, yeah. And how much of is there a big is the government involved to a degree? Like, are they trying to jump on board, trying to help the situation, or is there?
Not really. I think where the government come in, and we've had numerous meetings with, up to recently with Minister Damien English and Leo Varadkar when he was in the Minister for Enterprise and Trade. And that was to try and get more underwriters into Ireland, right, to look at the market. So they certainly have been working hard there, and there's a lot more work to be done. So it's a huge subject, Peter. We're in a good position at the moment, but a lot of work, a lot done, as to say, and a lot to do.
A lot of work to do. Yeah, it seems like a daunting task, or not a daunting task, but it seems like a hard job you've got there, Tommy. Like over 100 plus to.
Yeah, I think it's not really, to be honest, Peter. We've an executive together, which are our own members who all have their own businesses.
Yeah,
and the executive kind of represent the members and what the members want and should want, and they work very hard. And it's when you can see that we're making progress in terms of getting insurance and being able to sit down and discuss things. It's much easier than it seems.
Okay, well, that's good. And actually, any listeners, I want to point out that PALI, you're a non-profit organization, aren't you?
Yeah, PALI is non-profit. We take whatever membership money comes in, and it's split between kind of administration. We support ISME, the small businesses. We support our members with marketing, etc. And we support the Alliance for Insurance Reform. And basically, a lot of people's time, especially the executive, is voluntary.
Right, that's amazing. It's really good. I think listeners will love to hear that. Definitely, it's fantastic. So like, okay, so we've covered the number one issue, I suppose, or thing to check, the insurance. So moving on to number two, you've got your business plan, you've got your insurance sorted out, or whatever it is. You're rolling on to number two. Where does somebody go now?
Yeah, I think, look, again, there's no silver bullet, as I said, no blueprint, but a good place to start. And sometimes you can write down a lovely plan and it all works perfectly. Most of the time, it's by the seat of your pants. It just works. It just fell in. A little bit of luck, right place, right time.
I can relate to that, yeah.
Yeah. And for me, 99% of it will always be gut instinct. Will always be do your analysis, spend time doing it, understand it, and then throw it in the bin and go with whatever your gut tells you. Anytime I've gone with the analysis rather than the gut, I think I've certainly made mistakes.
Yeah.
But it starts with a kind of, if you can think in terms of a journey between the product or the service that you are going to provide and the customer, the end user that is going to use that service or product. And you can map the journey, even in your mind, even on a piece of a napkin or the back of a cigarette box, as they say. If you can map that journey and think of, how many more people are involved? Who are the influencers? What's the route to market? What's the journey? Is there warehousing involved? Is it IT driven? And you kind of get the main, the top kind of markers between where you are and where that customer is and how to get your product or service to the customer. Once you've that mapped out, you have a pretty clear understanding of how to get from A to B or A to Z.
A to Z.
And that's important because most or a lot of companies will spend a fortune in innovation in building a product. And they've got the product and be it, anything from a cake, let's say, to a pot of jam, to an IT piece of equipment. And they say this would be ideal, pot of jam is ideal for every person, every breakfast table in the world. And it is. The only thing is, how do you get from your production unit with a pot of jam to any table except your own? And when you map your journey, you find out, oh gosh, I've got to go through a shop, or I've got to go through an artisan food outlet, or I've got to go through one of the big multiples. And hold on a second, I'm just, what was I doing in the first place? Was I going to make 10 pots of jam or 10 million? And then you begin to kind of lose it because you just haven't thought it through day one.
Yeah.
So day one, if your intention is, Asher, look, I'll go with a little cottage industry and I'll do about 100 pots of jam a day, and I'm going to supply them to the local shops. Well, then just get on your bike, go to the local shops, make sure that they'll take in, look at your margins, look at the money that, the margin they're entitled to for what they bring. Will the product sell? Invest in brand, and then whether or not it's a little bit of a gore.
So you think, as in, like, if you are selling the jams or the marmalades or whatever, somebody should start off with just a small batch. Get on your bike, as you say. Get them into the local stores for free. Yeah. Maybe let them try it out. Get feedback. So start small.
Start small, yeah.
And just
small steps. Yeah. No massive investment. And be careful. Be careful with advice, because the people that are given advice can be given it from a textbook. To be quite honest, quite a few seem to take the textbook from, the management institutes, photocopy them and deliver them, and everything seems lovely. But sometimes it's very hard to put them into practice. Be careful if it's finance, because you've got to produce figures, and sometimes it's just a figure-based exercise rather than your gut instinct-based exercise. But I think it's small, solid steps. One step at a time, and don't be afraid to make a mistake. Don't be afraid. Again, if you're passionate about your business, you won't be put off if 1 in every 10 says, I don't particularly like that, because you're better off concentrating on the 9 that said, I do, rather than the one that said, I don't.
Yeah, of course, of course.
Yeah.
And when you're talking about passion, I completely agree with you. Like with my business, I have a huge passion for it. I mean, I could work 14 hours in a day and I wouldn't be tired. I mean, up at 6 o'clock the next morning. So it makes all the difference for me in the world. But here's the thing, like for anybody that's listening and they've got that massive passion, they want to go, blah, blah, blah. How do they differentiate the passion that they have and that their belief in the product versus the value that they're giving to the end consumer? As in, how can they, do you know what I mean? As in, like, how do they get out of their own head where the person, you know, Peter believes in this product, but does everybody else believe in it? But whereas Peter's so pig-headed stubbornness, he thinks everybody's going to love it, but he's got to get out of his own head and realize, well, hang on a second, it's not about you, Peter, it's about everybody else. How does anybody get out of their head? Is there a method? Is there a way, do you think? Like, what?
I don't think that there is, Peter, because I've seen guys that are so passionate about a case that is never going anywhere.
Yeah.
And they keep throwing money at it and keep throwing money at it. But usually, passion will drive success, will drive the business to be successful. But if the ground rules or the rules of engagement are understood by the person that's passionate, they won't go down the wrong road. They'll say, well, I turn my passion into a slightly different product than the one I'd originally involved. I'll move things, I'll shift a little bit, and they'll recognize if it's not working. It's no different than, if you look at the rugby matches last weekend, they had a different strategy than they had 6 months ago. They had a different coach. And he said, we've got to change things around. It didn't work. We changed it around. We look at the GA teams, and you see when you change a coach or a manager, there's a slightly different culture come in. It's not that the previous guy wasn't passionate about what he was doing. He was passionate, but it wasn't just turning up the scores. So I think it's passionate, but grounded. A realization, as in, this has got a finite base, or this has got a reason to change, and I do need to move on and innovate. I mean, innovate is a word that everybody's thrown around the place for the last 10 years, maybe not kind of understanding exactly what innovation means, but it's certainly, if you take innovation as changing to the normal, changing what you would normally do, and keep it as simple as that, you'll find that passion will be the driver and innovation will create the change.
Yeah. And and so, like, number 3 on the list, what would that be then? Is there any particular order? You got the passion, you got the insurance, passion, what would be next followed?
And the understanding the customer, really understanding what his need is, and if you can supply that need. Now, I think the kind of where you can go right or wrong. One said if somebody wanted a different light, they would have worked on a newer candle rather than electricity at the time, because it was so different. So again, there isn't a blueprint, but if you identify a need for something, it is so easy then to build a product and deliver it, rather than build a product and try and convince the audience of the need. So you can take millions of examples, especially in the tech world. The move from phones to now our iPhones, touchscreen iPhones, ease of use and everything that comes with them. It's easy to understand it there. It's more difficult to understand it in probably products in supermarkets, which are very much brand driven, and the investment in branding and in TV and advertising and across the media is creating a need that we think we need. So, for example, if you stand at the fixture in any of the multiples and look at the yogurt fixture, you'll find, oh Christ, there's about 50 different types of yogurts. Like, what's all that about? And we're all conditioned to think that one is more healthy than the other, or something about this one or about that one, when in fact probably there's only a need for one or two yogurts. So So if you're producing yogurt, what section do you produce it for? What customer do you produce it for? What segment do you produce it for?
Yeah.
So it's really it's really back to understanding that specific your customer that you have in mind, and have they got a need for your product?
Yeah, I suppose self-awareness, really. Would you think self-awareness of yourself, what your customer wants, and self-awareness about, are you giving what your customer wants? Are you falling short? Are you going too far?
It's probably even more simple than that, Peter. It's probably, are you listening? And if you're listening, you do get a chance to ask an odd question. And if you ask the right questions, you'll get the proper, correct answers that you need.
That's really good. Yeah.
But if you're not listening, you certainly won't. And if you go in far passionate that your product is the best ever, you're not going to listen to the customer. You're not going to understand their needs.
Yeah.
You're offering a solution for a problem that they may not have.
Yeah.
If I want to go to Cork, certainly what they need, what they want, what they can afford. If you listen, you'll find out, you'll be able to match your product or service very easily, or quite easily, as compared to driving, your product through, whether or not you understand their needs.
Yeah. And in terms of like social media now these days, is that on the list as well of getting your product out there or your service out there? What else is on the list now that you make sure people are aware?
I think social media, to me, is a tool for communication, for marketing, for messaging, for getting messages to some, either direct or slightly indirect, to a certain group. It's also a very useful tool for surveys, for getting feedback, if you use the right tools within the whole social media. I think sometimes it can be overplayed, because, we can hear the success stories. Oh, God, this influencer has 1 million followers. Yeah, but how many of those are there, like in Westport in Mayo, if I want to start up a business selling pots of jam? And how relevant is that to my business? So again, it's to think, in my view, keep it simple. Once you find out your customer, once you find out the product that you have to sell, your journey or your little route to market, and then say marketing is all about getting the communication together for that product all the way through, whether it used to be, believe it or not, column inches in the Independent or the Cork Examiner, and they were measured in how much column in the newspaper and how many inches did I get. And that was the selling point for media, believe it or not. Now it's clicks and hits and etc. So it has changed, and to be aware of the change. But again, be very simple and specific. There's no point in spending money on click farms. Yeah. If somebody is being paid, €1 per click, and you get nothing back for it, or you're getting a load of information, but it's not turning into sales. It's not turning into bringing your customers in. Now, it's easy to talk generically, because if you're selling, for example, if you're selling software, you're dealing with big multinational or big companies, or even small companies with one need, and you're going in to really understand what they are, or sell them the package, and it's one-to-one. If you're selling your pots of jam, it's branding, it's through the multiples, it's a whole different scenario. So there's not a simple solution for any one of those. It's which business are you in, and what are the most appropriate tools for that business?
Yeah, I like that, because I've grown up in a tech world and social media world now. We're getting huge amount of views, but everybody's so focused on social media right now and branding on social media. At the same time, like you're saying, I suppose in one way, the information that you're coming out with is like the backbone of your business, the insurance, the the passion, the what your customer wants. I mean, as long as you get those 1, 2, and 3 tick the box, then you get into the rest, the social medias and the branding, I presume, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
And the finance and everything else,
Yeah.
the regulations and the compliance and the governance and everything that goes along with it. But as I said, Peter, sometimes things just happen. Businesses just happen, influences just happen. Things go viral. It just happens. They didn't have to work on it. Unfortunately, a lot of us have to work on it. It just didn't happen. And so it's probably the kind of my opinions rather than expert advice is, and my experiences are to help those that are trying to get their head around, I'd love to do this. Where do I start? What? Give me kind of a structure that I can think about. Just give me a few pointers, and that's all I need. 1 or 2 steps, and I'm away. And in most cases, even big successful businesses, profitable businesses, the owners, the MDs, the CEOs, and their upper echelons, a lot of them, all they need is somebody to just simplify things and say, hey, just come down a peg or two. Let's think about this. Let's do 3 steps, not 25.
Yeah.
Because as a child, as a 3 to 6 year old, I think we're far more understanding and can take in far more information than as a 50-year-old. Because you're like a sponge. I can take it in, I can analyze it, I can box it off, and I can do it without even thinking because it happens. Incidentally, if you want to look at products, as adults, we have preconceived ideas about everything. Sometimes the best person to talk to is actually a child.
I agree.
What do you think? And they seem to tell you very quickly and very accurately what their opinion is. And sometimes it's extremely relevant.
Yeah. Because it's funny. Because even when that's brilliant. I love that when you said that. Now, I mean, when I set up my booking system, God, what was it? 7, 8 years ago, I wanted to know myself. Okay, is this easy to use on the phone? And I literally gave it to I think he was 10 at the time. My 10-year-old nephew went, dude, play with that. Can you book something for me? He goes, what do you mean? I said, well, can you make a booking? And I didn't have to tell him anything. And he went straight through it and went, all right, well, that's good for the younger ages. But then then I flipped it over and I tried to get out of my own head. And then, so it was great to get the kids' idea. Then I gave it to my mum. She kind of went, a little bit, but she got it, which was great. So I like that, that you get the fresh perspective of the different age group.
Yeah. And it's back to listening. It's back to listening, Peter. And not be afraid to ask the questions.
Yeah.
I think certainly most of the roles that I've had, I don't have the answers. I'm trying to make up the answers as I go along, but making them up as you go along means you're asking the most relevant people, the people whose opinions you value. And sometimes you'll disagree with them. Sometimes you'll agree with them, and it might give you a fresh perspective. And that might be exactly what you need. As I mentioned about CEOs and managers, that might be what you need to take things to the next step.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of businesses, which you would look at their books and say, oh, they're very, very successful. They're hugely successful. Look at the numbers, look at their sales. That coffee shop has a queue outside it. That factory is working 24/7. I think, you can put fancy words on it like critical thinking, etc. But, and it is all of that. And it is all of the textbook stuff, Peter. But at the end of the day, it's just keep it simple.
Keep it simple, yeah. And Tommy, this is just this mind blows me. You spent 5 years working in 50 third world countries.
Yeah, I think it's kind of massive when I think of it myself as well. But basically, I think there's probably 228 or 30 countries in the world. I think probably half of the world's countries are defined as the developing world, including China, believe it or not. And the business I was working in was we were supplying products for agriculture, for household hygiene, for malaria control, pest control, clean water, etc. mainly to third world or developing countries. And a
Wow.
lot of that was based on production in China, in Malaysia, in the UK, and then moving that product into the main areas like Central America, South America, both North and South Sahara, and into the East Asia countries. Not so much into Russia, believe it or not, but into those countries. So it was a fantastic opportunity to travel. Normally, we had one or two distributors, so you had a period of time in a country with a very narrow focus. You're not meeting a million people. You're really dealing with, one or two big distributors. And my what I used to do was plan that I would have maybe half a day to myself. And when we'd finish work, I'd get one of the local taxi drivers and say, look, can you take me for a half a day around the city? And let's start in the slums. Let's go through all the slums. I don't want to see the tourist stuff. I can see that on Google or anywhere else. But take me where the soul is. And it was just fascinating. The market, the marketing, the social media, the exchange of goods, the movement of goods, the movement of people, the culture in that kind of just underneath the surface was fantastic. Loved it. Loved every minute of that traveling. And that was all over the world, everywhere. Yeah.
Jeez. And 50 of those countries. I mean, how big of a task is it? I mean, like, how many people were working with you on a daily basis? I mean,
Very simple, actually. Because we're dealing with one distributor, let's say you do maybe 6 or 7 countries in Central America within 2 weeks, then I would have one interpreter, with Spanish, Portuguese interpreter, that would travel with me. And we'd hold some of the meetings would be in English, but a lot would be in Spanish or Portuguese. That would be, it's been a day or two in each area and move on. And then, over 5 years, it was getting back to build a relationship with those distributors every year, or every second year, or every 18 months. But it was
right.
great fun.
And like your daily, look, forgive me, I have no idea. I can't get my head around the whole thing, first of all. But like, what was your daily work? Like, how do you set this up in these countries, third world countries?
Well, it was a mixture. It's like, as I mentioned earlier on, Peter, the journey between the product that you have and the need. So if you look at, let's take, for example, Nigeria. Nigeria is absolutely huge. When you look at the market in Nigeria, you find that it's small farmers. Small farmers like was in the west of Ireland, 100 years ago. They have a hectare, and they're pretty primitive. They have a knapsack sprayer. They use about 3 or 4 different chemicals only. They have rainy seasons followed by hot seasons, which means that on the same area of ground, they can probably take 3 crops a year. Their biggest problem is not growing crops. Their biggest problem is getting the crops to market because it's so expansive, so big, so far. It could be 100 miles from where their little land is to try and get to some kind of a main road through dirt tracks, etc.
So that was their main problem, the distance.
That's their problem.
Okay.
What we supplied into them was chemicals, crop protection chemicals. The rules of engagement for them was, the market, the end user, their need was, I want something no bigger than a litre, between a half a litre and a litre, no bigger than that, which means that big corporations are not bringing in products in 200 litre IBCs or 5 gallons at a time. They want they want to be able to pick up the product close to where they use it. So that's their need, and they have an idea of how many dollars they would pay for the product. The journey from where we can produce that product to that end user, the journey from production would be the UK or Malaysia or China in through Lagos, and once it gets to Lagos, it would be, how many distributors are there and what's their kind of route to market to get to that farmer in what part of Nigeria. So once you figure out
Right.
that, you find that, like in most cases now, there are only a handful of distributors that you need to work with.
Right. And did it make it a tougher challenge, the fact that they wanted the smaller, like the liter ones instead of the bigger volume? Did that make business a lot harder?
No, that actually is an opportunity rather than a challenge, Peter, because
Right. Right.
it means that you've got to produce specifically for that market. Now, when you're talking of efficiencies, you're talking of, volume sales, massive production, and a lot of the bigger companies would be producing in the States or in Europe. So you've just got to build the product, take it back and build the product that they want. So yeah,
Right.
it's what I've kind of said. Even in some household malaria control products, you're talking of the need being much smaller, being just 20 mils of product, or a water dispersible tablet that will fit in a couple of liters of water. So it's all the time taking their need, listening to them, visiting them, watching what they do on the ground, taking it back and building the product for them, rather than telling them, I've got this product here.
Right. So it was helpful that they knew exactly what to provide. ABC bang, was it?
Yeah. It's complex, but we use the same kind of rules to simplify it down. It is a complex business. It's regulated, very high regulated. There's lots of risks. There's an awful lot of red tape. But all that, at the end of the day, it's quite simple. What do they want? What can we get? How can we get it from A to B? And then build all your social media, your marketing, your regulation, your compliance, your governance, your finance, everything else behind it.
Right. And like you did in 5 years, 50 countries. Like, how much traveling did you do? Was it through car mainly, train, planes? What was your?
It was mainly planes. It was mainly getting on flights to the UK and just taking long hauls, short and long hauls. But yeah, mainly flights. And then once that hit, let's say Central America, then you do a number of countries whilst there. So it's like a milk round. You'd make the best of time on the trip.
Right. Yeah. So you were coming back to base, so to speak, and then going back over to the countries, was it? Or
so
you'd spend.
Yeah. So you probably hit the three main areas every year: South America, Central South America, Asia, and Africa. So to go to Africa, it'd probably take in maybe Algeria, down into Kenya, down into Zimbabwe. So you'd have to hit 3 or 4 there. In Asia, it would be the same. And in Central America, South America would be the same. And it was fantastic because it was different crops. It was different products. It was different cultures. It was just so interesting.
Yeah, it sounds amazing. Oh, man. And like, a lot of people go on about how dangerous South America is. Is that out of proportion, or is that, or is there certain places that you go that it is absolutely lethal, or what do you think?
I think you have to have your wits about you on the beach in Mayo, never mind in the thick of Mexico.
Okay.
Yeah, there are kind of rules, and you have to be aware and all of that. It's not to be taken lightly.
Right.
And there are situations that you make sure you don't get into. But yeah, I think if you've a lot of common sense, it's not that dangerous.
Right. It's not as bad as everybody makes it out to be.
I think, some people will probably make it. No, you do have to be aware. You do have to be.
Yeah. And I like, before we go on, we'll talk about the Wild West Centre down in a second, but like when people are stealing stuff down in South America, I hear different things. They're going for wallets. They're going for your iPhone now. Like if it was 6 or 7 years ago, it was your wallet. But now, all of a sudden, it's completely changed into, oh, I'm getting that guy's phone or the Android phone. I mean, is that what it is? Or
I have never experienced, luckily enough, never experienced anybody robbing anything from me, Peter.
right, good.
Never. So no, I
Yeah,
think if you are probably, if you're a suspect, there's probably a good reason you're a suspect. If somebody looks, they'll probably see your wallet in your pocket, your iPhone in your back pocket. You're probably, maybe partaking of the local liquor, etc. So you target, I would imagine.
yeah,
I-
yeah.
you know,
It's amazing the way times have changed from the wallet to the phone. I mean, it's your phone can be what, €1,000, €1,200, and you can buy 3 or 4 laptops for that money.
yeah,
I mean,
yeah. I think at the
unbelievable.
moment, I think you don't have to go anywhere near South America to find the amount of scams that are being run
Oh,
locally, never mind anywhere else, or you
yeah,
put an ad up on your on the internet at the moment, whether it's Done Deal or Facebook, and you're bound to have half a dozen of scammers, and that will
yeah,
gladly take your identity or your credit card or something, your
yeah,
or your address or something, and use it inappropriately. So
yeah.
I think I'd be far more concerned about that in safety terms than I would about a wallet or a phone going missing on the trip.
Yeah, actually, just thought of it there. Any Irish listeners here? There's an email going around at the moment, actually, supposedly quote from Ross, the revenue, and I've got a couple. I don't know if you got some, Tommy, but there is a scam email going around pretending to be Ross. They've even got the image on the email. They've got the perfect, like they even have it down to the T where they've got the exact font that the Ross used. I mean, it looks so legit. But then again, main problem, if you click on the link and you look at the email address, it gives it away, you know?
Yeah.
But guys, if you are with Ross, you've just started a business, just keep an eye out for that, because there is some dodgy scam emails going on with Ross at the moment. Sorry, not with Ross, but pretending to be Ross. Yeah, crazy.
There are as well with the credit unions, and again, it's a
Yeah,
everything that's there, and we can all get sucked in because you may be a member of one of these banks or credit unions. You see something coming in, you don't think twice, you just click and say, "Yeah, oh God, here,
that's it."
Get it off the desk, and you find that that you're in trouble. So, yeah, I think that's more concerning, I think, Peter, than some of my travels, some of my security measures during my travels.
Yeah, it definitely is. We've got to be on high alert these days. Jeez. So tell us about Wild West Centre. Like, I've obviously been up in Wild West Centre, children's play centre.
Yeah.
Look, I'll let you speak, Tommy. Tell us about it for the listeners.
It's quite simple. We decided to move back from the UK. We were living just outside London. Tish, my wife, has worked with children for many years, especially children that may have sensory needs or special needs. She didn't want to retire, but she did want to work or do something. So we looked for a business, and she looked for a business to do with children, and I looked for a business that might make money or at least pay some bills. So going back to the need, round Mayo, it does seem to rain. It does seem to demand for children that they need an indoor facility most of the year round. A facility, it does seem that kids are born nearly every month in Mayo, I think. That means that we have a demand led for birthday parties 12 months of the year, not just 6 months or 6 weeks of a tourist term. There's a population build, there's a move to the west, especially Westport, Castlebar, Louisburg, for example, one of the largest growing small towns in Ireland during COVID, believe it or not. And there's a lot of parents working from home, which means that there's a market, a need for a facility for children. Now, there was a facility there that had been built up by local couple, made a fantastic job of it. And all we done was take it over and start to build on it. It's unique in 2 or 3 areas. First of all, it's a themed play village. Most play villages are indoor soft play, are warehouse converted with scaffolding poles and padding. Ours has got a theme of the Wild West. It's got the jail, it's got the saloon, it's got the piano.
I remember, yeah.
The second thing is, although ours is a soft play, it's also an area where parents can come to a decent quality coffee cafe, like a Parisian cafe, where they can sit down and get freshly ground coffee, and then take out their iPhones and play with their iPhones while the kids are playing up on the frame. That's the second. And the third is not by design, but just happened for us as well, is that there was a small sensory room which we've since developed for children that have sensory needs. And there are quite a lot of children that have sensory. All children have sensory needs, actually, but some have more than others. And this has proved a fantastic community facility. As a matter of fact, there's quite a number of associations around the West that deal with the autistic community. And there's one called Mayo Autism. And we're with them this evening for their big get-together as one of probably 50 companies that are now focused on providing facilities or services or products for the autistic community. We also work very closely with one of the major schools here. And it's just phenomenal that in that school, they probably have 70 children with their sensory needs. And up until recently, they had the loan of a laptop with a press active for voice activation for the children that are non-verbal. And we've done a fundraiser with those, and we've now got 10 iPads and 12.5 grand worth of software to load onto those for the children in that specific school. So that's a market that it's maybe a little payback to the community, but it certainly is a market that we've developed or a community that we've worked with in the Wild West. So the business itself, wrong timing from a business point of view, a disaster. We took it over in January in 2020. We closed in March and more or less closed for 20 months. And the only guy knocking on the front door.
20 months?
Yeah. The only guy knocking on the front door was the bank manager saying, "When am I getting paid? When am I getting paid?" We're back in business, and that's what business is about. It's been about, the peaks and the troughs. We're back up. We're back running. We've built up over the last 12 months from this time last year, and it's going well. We've a lovely parochial local market, and we then have our summer market, or UK coming back here for term time market. So it's going pretty well. Tish, my wife, runs it. I'm kind of there the weekends. A little bit passionate about, helping out. I have to be involved somewhere in the way a lot of the time. But it's a nice little business, and it's great fun. Great fun.
That's nice. And just one thing, you were saying that. Did you say that all kids to some degree need sensory help? Sorry, what was that again?
Yeah, in my view, and only my opinion, and by the way, the expert, not me. But when you see, and I've seen even my own grandchild being brought into the sensory room, you switch on the music, you switch on the lights, you switch on the movement of something, and it just gets their whole body moving. They love to see, and especially when they're just learning, they're like that sponge taking in stuff. They love to see the movement, the sounds, the music, the little fish tanks with the fish going up and down. It's fantastic to see for all children.
Yeah. And guys, I was up with Tommy, I think it was last October, and I went into the sensory room, and I think, Tommy, you can vouch for me, and I'm saying this in public, it actually brought tears to my eyes, didn't it? It's just such a, it's almost romantic, that room. It's amazing.
It's strange, especially some children that have high needs and can be quite vociferous. Once they go into that room, they go from a level of 10 down to 3 in a minute.
Yeah.
And they've kind of solitude, or they've comfort, or they're in a comfort zone. And we have a projector there that we can put on whatever music that they like. And some of them have kind of tastes. Well, this little kid of maybe 3-year-old loves Pavarotti. Where and how, I don't know, but that's what they want. That's what we.
Wow.
Another one is Gareth Brooks. There's another child comes into us. It's Christy Moore. Then another one comes in. It's happy. That guy, the guy that sings, dances to happy, happy, happy. So yeah, it's a great little. The Wild West is a nice little business, and a great local support. And the sensory room is certainly a fantastic addition to it.
It is, yeah, and the way you're saying that it's set up the way you feel like you're going into a small town. I have to say, when I went in there, is it the Wild West Saloon, if memory serves me correct? It's right in front of you when you've got that. I mean, it really is. I can't imagine what it's like for a kid. So any of my overseas listeners, if you are coming to Ireland this summer, you've got to, and it's in County Mayo, guys, Westport in Mayo, and it's the Wild West Centre, the Play Centre. What's your website, Tommy?
It's thewildwest.ie.
Thewildwest.ie. So guys, definitely you should check out Tommy's place and say hello to Tommy. He'll be there with Tish, hopefully, and he'd say hello to you. So yeah, guys, sorry, go ahead, Tommy.
Yeah, what is interesting, Peter, and we see it every day, is that children nowadays are more sedate because they spend, or they're allowed, or they spend, is the culture, they spend a lot of time on techie, on phones or on tablets or inside with the weather. And even if it's a sunny day, they might go for a walk on the beach, but it's short. They might go play outside, but it's short. When they come into our facility, especially birthday parties, they will get 1 full hour of energy burn. And kids don't get an hour of energy burn. Even in school, it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, maybe 15 at most. Even at home, they don't get it anymore. So they come down from the frame after their hour ravenous. They would just, give me food, give me anything, give me drink. And they're really burned out, and certainly they sleep that night. So any of our facilities are fantastic for any of our facilities, as in our PALI group nationwide. It's fantastic to get the energy burn with children,
Yeah, and just to point out as well, guys, so you've got birthday parties available 7 days a week, Tommy? Yeah?
No, unfortunately, our customers are in school for 3 or 4 days of the week, Peter. So so school term, we open Thursday to Sunday, and most birthday parties, because kids have so many extracurricular nowadays, most birthday parties are Friday evening, Saturday, and Sunday. Summertime, we're open 7 days a week. For actually, when the schools are closed, we're open 7 days a week.
Perfect. And is there any minimum amount of children for a birthday party? Just if anybody wants to know.
No, we've no minimum. When we took over the business, we said, look, we will facilitate anybody, and we don't put in any. It's all inclusive.
Brilliant. And Tommy, just before we wrap up here, so just quickly back to, I suppose, the bullet points of anybody starting their own business. Can you close it off for us? Like, what do you think, guys? Anybody's listening to Tommy right now? What do we do, Tommy?
I think the first thing is you'll have a good feeling yourself of what kind of a business you want to get into. If your business is what you're passionate about, come on, take a risk on it, make a run, try it, because it'll be so easy than if you're not passionate about it. Remember, keep it grounded. Understand the end customer's need. Build the journey between you and the end customer to understand all the ups and downs in between and who's involved and what it takes. Keep it simple. Don't complicate it. Let somebody else do the complexities. Just try and keep it simple. Before you spend a fortune, find out what insurance is needed and if you can get that insurance before you spend any money or before you develop your business plan. once you do, drive it with passion, but listen all the time. Listen to the people that work with you and for you. Listen to the customer. Listen to the distributors or the middlemen, and don't be afraid to make mistakes.
That's a great way to finish off the podcast. Tommy, thank you very much, sir, for coming on. Hopefully we can do this again soon. And yeah, guys, listen, look, it'll be available on the as an episode in the next few days. It's the start of March, 1st of March. So this will probably be on next week. So if you're anybody on social media seeing this, it'll probably be available on the 4th or 5th, but obviously I'll notify everybody once it is. So ladies and gentlemen, that was Tommy Gill. Tommy, thank you very much, sir. And have a great day, sir.
Take care, Peter.
See you guys. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye-bye.